Hello, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome back to Just Because Wrestling, and no guest this week. It's just too damn hot.
Is that the excuse? It's too warm to ask anyone to sit inside.
Not for lack of trying. I have tried to get people on. I didn't get any responses. I'm going to chalk that down to the fact that everyone melted. Everyone has just died from heat stroke, or perhaps their laptops are no longer functioning due to the heat.
I don't blame anyone. Like we're normally good for, we're normally good for getting guests or anyone to respond to us, at least. So I'm chalking that down to the correlation of the weather. That people are just not doing interviews in the weather, perfect sense. And I don't blame them because it is sweltering here. We were mentioning there, our country isn't built for this. No, fridges are breaking. Fridges are melting. Government just starting to talk about water shortages. Like, we're the most pathetic country in the entire world. We flood in the winter. We run out of water in the summer.
I had this discussion with people in work and stuff like that. Like, we are such a pathetic country in the sense that, like, any bit of extreme weather and like the country falls down. This water thing is not new either. Do you remember with the last heat wave we got? We had like a massive drought. There was like they
were banning people from. They didn't make it law, but they were urging people not to use paddle pools because it was filling up was wasting too much water. That's how extreme it was getting. They were urging people to only flush their toilet when necessary. Because I don't know what's an unnecessary flush.
They do tend to go in every so often and just flush the toilet
for no reason.
So if you're not sure, in Ireland at the moment, we're hitting pretty high temperatures. We're hitting like the high 20s, low 30s, which is kind of unheard of for this country. I know that the hottest we've ever gotten was 33.3. Back in like 1887 or something.
I think it was 1894 in Kilkenny.
It was in Kilkenny, all right, I know that. But
in modern times, I think this is the hottest it's been since 2004. I think it was like in Monaghan somewhere.
I think we got 29.8 was the hottest in like Roscommon, I think it was.
Yeah, somewhere like that.
Yeah, so it's quite hot. And also hence the decision that we're doing this remotely as well, because it's just too warm to sit in the same room. It just is.
Especially the small room that we do record in. It's too warm.
It's just that room's warm in any weather, let alone a heat wave. But
if I had more time and notice, I would have been able to set up outdoors, but I would have needed the time, and I didn't have the time.
It doesn't matter. It doesn't matter. We can do it like this just as easy. Probably easier than like you don't have to move shit.
Yeah.
But yeah, like I said, no guest this week, but that's okay because this has been a very busy week in the wrestling world. Where to begin? I suppose to begin with, we had the return of fans in WWE anyway, last Friday for SmackDown, which was great. That was fantastic to see. But nothing major happened. It was just great to see fans. But obviously
Balor returned. Balor came back.
Balor returned. That's true. I forgot about that. Finn Balor returned confronting Sami Zayn, which was heavily reported on the day and later confirmed, obviously, by his appearance. Which is great. I mean, like, there's obviously a lot of question marks over Finn Balor. What would he do next after losing the NXT Championship? Would he remain in NXT? Would he go to NXT UK? What was the story with him? And it looks like he's back on SmackDown, which is cool. I mean, I don't mind that at all. It looks like he's starting a feud with Sami Zayn. That'll be fun. I can't say no to that, really. I can't be disappointed with that. However, I am kind of hoping that he isn't just pushed back into the mid card. Like, I think he proved WWE wrong anyway, that like he is a main event player while in his second run in NXT. I mean, he proved it in his first run, but he cemented it in his second run with arguably, in my opinion, his second reign was actually better in my opinion than his first reign. albeit shorter, but it just felt more meaningful. So I actually wouldn't mind seeing him say, once this, John Cena Roman Reigns feud is over. Spoiler alert, we'll get to that. I wouldn't mind seeing Finn Balor step into that role as a potentially Universal Championship contender.
I think he'd be a great opponent for Roman. They've had great matches in the past. I think. Sorry.
There's history there as well.
There's history there, and I think he'd be a good opponent for Roman. I don't think he's going to take the title anytime soon, but I think he's going to be like in the kind of Kevin Owens, Sami Zayn, Shinsuke Nakamura, Cesaro spot, where like very higher mid card type thing.
Yeah,
but
I saw a lot of people. I saw a lot of people theorizing that like the Sami Zayn feud will just be a very short-lived feud. It won't even be a match at SummerSlam. That like it'll be Finn and Apollo at SummerSlam for the IC title.
Yeah,
and definitely. I mean, like I can't be, I wouldn't be mad at it. You know what I mean? Like it's like
I think he takes the title off Apollo if that does happen. Absolutely. I think it's time now. I think the Apollo thing just kind of fizzled out. It was good start off with. What's that? Sorry, you cut out there.
He hasn't been on TV in a while, like so.
Yeah, so it'd be something for the Intercontinental. It'd be good for the Intercontinental title because like the 4 or 5 people I just named out, Owens, Zayn, Balor,
Nakamura.
Cesaro, Nakamura. Like that's like imagine the Intercontinental title matches you can get out of that if you seriously consider your Intercontinental title. Like it's always been known as the workers' belt, but it's not been portrayed as such in the last decade or so. But you could genuinely get some fantastic matches out of that if you really went with it. But I don't know. Vince doesn't care about the Intercontinental title, so I don't know. But going from that, then we went into Money in the Bank. Obviously, that was a go home show. Money in the Bank.
Yeah. Before actually we get into Money in the Bank, I just want to briefly mention on the Saturday night we had Impact Slammiversary.
Oh, we did. Yeah, I completely forgot about that. Yeah.
Yeah. Which Impact also saw their return of fans, albeit not on the size of WWE, but still it was great to see for Impact. Like the fans that were there definitely made themselves heard. But the big talking point. Well, there was a couple of surprises and returns. We saw the return of No Way Jose. No Way Jose shut up now, Chris, and No Way, just No Way. We saw the return of Mickie James to Impact Wrestling, which is pretty cool. It looks like we saw Chelsea Green, correct? Yeah, Chelsea Green returned, teaming with her real life husband Matt Cardona. There looks like they're setting up a Deonna Purrazzo Mickie James feud going forward to for Glory, probably, which would be good. And the big talking point came in the main event. So the main event was the no DQ match for the Impact World Championship between Kenny Omega and Sami Callihan. Very good match. Classic Sami Callihan match, really. Kenny Omega picks up the win, and he's celebrating with the Good Brothers and Finn Juice returned as well earlier in the card. But we saw celebration with the Good Brothers and Don Callis. And then out comes Switchblade Jay White, the leader of Bullet Club, makes his presence known in Impact Wrestling, the current never openweight champion as well, which I guess now is the second highest belt in New Japan. Yeah. And he comes out, and what was interesting was Kenny laid his other belts, the AEW title, the AAA title, and the old TNA title on the stage, and Dave was looking him up and down. I think he took particular interest in the AEW title, and then he makes his way down to the ring, and obviously everyone in the ring, former Bullet Club guys, Gallows and Anderson are thrown up to Too Sweet. Jay's not really reacting, but Kenny, I loved Kenny's reaction here. Like it looked like he's seen a ghost. Like this kid who took him out like in his rookie year, and kind of like took his spot essentially. And I love this. I'm interested now to see where this is going. I know that Jay, just because I read what happens on the Impact tapings, I won't spoil it now in case people want to, watch it in real time. But I will say that he is going to be appearing, and there may or may not be a new member of Bullet Club. I'll leave it at that, and you can tune in to see. But yeah, Jay White showing up in Impact Wrestling. I know he's in the States too, because New Japan are running like an American pay-per-view in the States. He's taken on David Finlay, defending the Never Openweight title against David Finlay. So yeah, it'll be interesting to see what he does with his time over here, because he was a guy who a lot of us were just like, it's a matter of time till he makes his way over and goes to WWE or AEW or such and such. He showed up in Impact. Now I know he's not signed or anything, but like it's the forbidden door thing, isn't it? That like if he can show up here, he can show up in AEW. And such.
And that was the thing that surprised me. I thought that was like, if they were going to do it, I thought it would have been AEW that would have done it.
Yeah.
It just felt like a weird one for Impact, because it feels too big for Impact. Like, how many people? Like, obviously it's a good show, and like they do well and they do a good job. But realistically, how many people watch that pay-per-view live? Compared to the bigger scale that AEW have been on. But like, AEW are doing 1 million viewers up against the NBA playoffs, so like Impact are doing that.
Yeah, so, look, maybe it's, I don't know. I obviously don't know the logistics behind it. I don't know what the conversations were.
But at the same time, to play devil's advocate, like AEW are debuting people every week. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like, and they're doing a lot of, debuting people, teasing things and never following up. Like when Christian debuted and he had that altercation with Kenny, nothing has come about that now,
Yeah. It's like they have too much on their hands now to follow through on everything that they're promising. And which is obviously a dangerous game, because it's like, the thing is, I think their misses are minuscule in compared to their hits. And like, I think if it was the other way around, people would be very much, sour on AEW, but like when Christian shows up and, they hint at a feud between him and Kenny, that's fine. But when they turn around and they do what they've done, in the meantime, debut Malachi Black, debut, we know the rumors that we'll get into there in a minute, but like when those are on the table, you don't mind not seeing Christian Cage in a World Championship feud, you know what I mean? And it is frustrating as well as a viewer, because like you do feel kind of like, for the ones that are paying attention every week, for the likes of us who discuss it weekly, we do feel kind of like, well, what was the point of that then? I'd
still want to see Kenny and Christian Cage. I think that'd be a fantastic match. But I know we're jumping ahead now talking about AEW, but like, I think AEW has to be very conscious in terms of, they're debuting a lot of people nearly every week now. Like Andrade only debuted a couple of months back, but he's like the 10th last debut that has happened. You know what I mean? Like, when you're debuting at the high volume that you are, then it's like there's no way all these people can get over. And it seems, just by looking at, like, just by reading rumors and what they're teasing and whatever, like it's not going to stop. Like, they have a lot of people lined up, and even when you look at, even if you look at the thing with Nick Gage last night.
Yeah.
And obviously, like, got a pop, cool moment, whatever. But I also think there's something needs to be said on, you have so many people on your roster that could have had that spot, and you give to someone who isn't signed to your show.
Yeah, did you have to bring in Nick Gage to do that? Like,
yeah, and like I think they're very pop orientated. Like they're very like, oh, it'll get a great pop, you know. But like, all of a sudden, if I'm a say, like if I'm a Joey Janella, say, or someone who's signed for the thing, and I'm watching Nick Gage, who wrestles similarly enough to the way I wrestle, come in just because the fans will get a good pop. I'm like, what the fuck am I doing here? You know what I mean? I'm signed here. I'm employed by this company.
Yeah. Like, I get it in a way that, like, you know, I understand, like, obviously I understand that the story is, you know, MJF is doing these 5 labors of Jericho, where Jericho has to overcome these challenges in order to get a match with him in the end. And each match is going to be more difficult than the next. And obviously, a no disqualification match with Nick Gage is as good as a bloody death sentence in some places, you know, and depending on who you are. And I understand that, like, if you say, oh yeah, you're going to face Nick Gage in a no DQ match, like, immediately you're just like, oh, that sounds bad. That sounds really, really bad. And I understand, like, if you had Joey Janela come out, it wouldn't have been as good. But, like, why not use someone like, say, Wardlow? We'll take Wardlow, for example. Maybe they'll use him down, you know, for another one anyway. But let's just take Wardlow, for example, because he's part of the Pinnacle. You know, Wardlow versus Jericho in an MMA rules match or something like that, or, you know, something that, you know, gives Wardlow the advantage, that sounds equally as dangerous or something like that, you know. Because I do understand what you're saying. Like, it is kind of weird to have, like, to just bring in these people. And, like, I know we've heard about AEW's kind of contract situations before, like how they have like different tiers of contracts and stuff, and they have these like similar, like we were just talking there before we started recording, how Thunder Rosa has now signed permanently with AEW, but for ages she was appearing, you know, I guess on a paid by appearance basis. I guess, I'm not sure.
Yeah,
she was in a lot of high profile matches to be just paid by appearance, but so who knows? But like, it's weird. So this Nick Gage in AEW, it's probably a one-time thing. Maybe it isn't, kind of thing. I think what it's like, it's kind of like a trial shift. I think it feels to me. It feels like they bring these guys in who are, you know, over anyway. They don't actually need to sign with AEW, and like their careers are fine where they are, or they could end up somewhere else and be fine. But they come in to chance AEW and see what it's like, see how they fit in, see if they like it, see if they like them, and then, you know, talks can begin then. I don't know. I know it's tricky because you obviously take away spots from people who you already have signed.
Here's the thing, like, you know, okay, fair enough, bring people in on trial. You know, okay, let's say hypothetically, Nick Gage comes in, does a good job, they sign Nick Gage. Okay. But like 2 weeks' time, I guarantee you, there'll be a new outside guy. And all of a sudden, Nick Gage won't be seen. You know what I mean? Like look at it, Dynamite now next week. Nick Gage on the card, your man from the Bullet Club on the card. Both like in high profile matches on your main show, and not signed to AEW. And like I like AEW like to portray this whole, oh, we are a family, you know, like there's no one unhappy backstage here, but like wrestling politics still exists. Like like make no mistake about it. So like, you know, I can only imagine that there's people pissed off at that. Like you have to be, you know.
Yeah, I mean, maybe like the vibe I get, I mean, like, I don't know. Like, I'm not going to pretend that I do, but like the vibe I get is that the majority of people are happy there. But you do get the impression that the likes, Joey Janela is a good example, that like he came in obviously hot as shit, you know, like he was incredibly over, like Joey Janela's spring break and all that kind of stuff was at its peak. He comes in, he has a few high profile matches, but they book him to lose a lot. And like, you know, after a while, it does start to wane on a guy. You can only book a guy to lose so much without it actually taking effect on his career.
Yeah.
And, you know, one of his, like, his major appeal was that he was a lunatic who would put his body on the line. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
He didn't look like, to look at him, you didn't, but that was his style. But when you got the likes of Darby Allin, Jon Moxley, Lance Archer, Eddie Kingston, you know, these other guys with just a slightly bit more it factor to them. And then you bring in the likes of Nick Gage, who, like, that's all he knows. He just knows bloody death match. That's all he knows.
Yeah.
Like, it's definitely bound to frustrate people, but it also, I think AEW is trying to portray itself as this place where, you know, you watch WWE every week, you're going to see superstar A, B, and C, and you're guaranteed to see them every week. You watch AEW, you don't know who you're going to see. You could see anyone, and that's part of the appeal, I think. And you know, the likes of Hikaleo's in the crowd, and then people are like, "Who's Hikaleo?" And then you look up, you know, but like, you know, obviously he's one of the lesser known guys on the New Japan roster because he's only just after graduating from the Young Lion program. So like, you're like, oh, who's this guy? And then you look at, he's wearing a Bullet Club t-shirt. You look into Bullet Club, you see he's Tama Tonga's brother, and then you get involved in that, and then you're like, oh, is Tama Tonga going to show up? And you get and then you see the history between Kenny and the Bucks and Bullet Club and all this kind of stuff. And I think that's part of the appeal. Now it is a delicate balance. You don't want to be filling your card with one or two roster regulars and then the rest being surprises from the indies. Because that, well, but like, yeah, I don't know. It's a delicate balance. I mean, I can't say I didn't pop. I'm not gonna lie.
No, I'm not saying that, but like, I just don't want them to focus too much on the pop because there's a lot of people who debuted and they've gotten a great pop first out, and then they're just a regular roster member, and you know, Christian Cage is a great example. Like,
he's in this weird lower mid card feud with Matt Hardy.
But he came in, and I can only imagine what they're paying. Like, he cannot be cheap. Neither can be Matt Hardy, for that matter. And you know,
and to kind of further like accentuate your point about like the pops and stuff, like the fact that they signed the likes of Paul White, Mark Henry, and they bring him out in front of a crowd for 20 seconds just to get a pop, when like these guys are not going to feature in any major way on shows. Like, granted, Paul White's on commentary for Dark Elevation or whatever, and he's going to be on, I think he's going to be on the other show as well, the Rampage, I think. Mark Henry, just like, I don't know what Mark Henry's job. I think he's just a producer.
He's an analyst. He's an analyst for Rampage when it starts up. So
yeah, so like that is a fucking fairy job. Like, do you know what I mean? That's a made up job. You know what I mean? Like that is a job that they were like, oh, Mark Henry's available. Will we sign him? Yeah, sure. What'll he do? I don't know. Analyst. But for what show? I don't know. That kind of thing. Like, it's very...
Did you see the interview with Tony Khan and Bully Ray recently?
No, I didn't.
So Bully or Bubba Ray Dudley, as he's more known as, was asking Tony Khan, and he was basically like asking Tony Khan about the gripes that a lot of fans have in terms of the tag team rules are a bit hazy, like, you know, refereeing isn't that great, whatever. And Tony Khan like denied it all. He just said, nah. He was like, I don't think there's an issue with refereeing. I don't think there's an issue with tag team rules. And like Bully Ray was like, how could you not think like the point is, like, he wasn't taking constructive criticism from one of the best tag team wrestlers about tag team wrestling. And that just made me fear that, you know, AEW is stuck in its way and nothing will change. You know what I mean?
Yeah,
very pop-centric, very indie, very, you know...
It sounds to me that, like, Tony Khan has come in. He's obviously not in the wrestling business that long, but obviously he's come in at the very top. You know what I mean? He came in... He didn't build AEW from bingo halls to stadiums. You know what I mean? Like, he
didn't do what Vince did, or Vince's father did.
Yeah, and he's after coming in.
Bischoff, for that matter.
Yeah, I think he's after coming in, and in his head he's like, I know how to run a wrestling company. Like, what's I can do this.
But it was very strange. He just denied any issues. He was just talking about how great, even if, like, Vince is Vince, but even if you listen to Vince, I know he doesn't do much, like, in terms of interviews and stuff, but he will always say something critical about the product, or he'll always he'll defend it most part, but he'll always say, "Oh, there's room for improvement, or we can do this better, we can do that better." Tony, like, if you didn't watch AEW listening to Tony Khan, you think every week is the greatest wrestling show of all time, and it just keeps topping itself every week. And
that's a bad thing to think, that, like, I mean, like, you can always be better in, like, every regard, like, and I'm talking, like, every walk of life. You can always be better at something. Do you know what I mean? Like, and like, Tony Khan can't sit back and, like, even if his tag team division, now granted, like, don't get me wrong, tag team division is stacked, probably the best tag team division in the world currently. But like, the way he structures tag team matches, for the most part, a lot of the rules just go out the window. And even if that didn't happen, even if his tag team matches week on week were perfect and were absolutely 5-star classics every single week, an absolute clinic in tag team wrestling, he should still be in his head going, it can be better though. Like, we should be trying to top it though.
Yeah, and not like this is great, like, not like, I don't know, it's weird.
It is weird. But look, we'll circle back to AEW.
Yeah, go on.
Well, we'll circle back to AEW because we can end up talking. I can see that we're just going down this rabbit hole. We'll get back to them. We'll come back. We'll do this chronologically. So we went from Slammiversary on Saturday. We'll go to Sunday now, and this was the big show. This was Money in the Bank, WWE's first pay-per-view in front of fans, besides WrestleMania, in a year and a half, in 18 months. Live from Fort Worth in Texas. And yeah, I mean, it was an exciting card. It was a great card on paper. A lot of people looking forward to it. I won't run down the whole card because I'm here all day. But, like, I'll just go through the major points. Nikki ASH won the Women's Money in the Bank ladder match. She became Miss Money in the Bank. Yeah, Miss Money in the Bank. I don't know. I was going to say Miss Women's Money in the Bank, but anyway, Miss Money in the Bank. And I actually burst out laughing in the way she won the briefcase. Like, everyone's like, you have, like, the triple ladder thing. Everyone's, like, scrambling, and then she just scampers up while everyone's distracted and takes it. Because I thought it was a brilliant example of, like, one of those wrestling tropes. Like, how wrestlers are easily distracted, and, like, it was one of those brilliant things, being like, everyone's busy. I'll just run up and I'll just climb this ladder at a regular pace and just grab this briefcase.
Yeah.
So that was quite cool. A shock. I don't think anyone really expected it. It was very shocking. I mean, and I think we might as well get it. I'll combine this. So Nikki ASH won the Raw, or the Money in the Bank briefcase. Later on the night, Charlotte Flair defeated Rhea Ripley to win the Raw Women's Championship in a great match, actually. A match that I think a lot of people weren't looking forward to, probably the least exciting match on the card, and actually started off with "We Want Becky" chants, like really loud "We Want Becky" chants, which prompted Charlotte to flip off the crowd, which was, good heel work on her part. I'll give her that. And the two of them actually did a really, really good job, to the point that the fans were chanting "This is awesome" by the end of it. It was a really good match, I will say. But Charlotte wins. Next night on Raw, Charlotte and Rhea Ripley have a rematch for the title. Charlotte wins by DQ. And then Rhea takes out Charlotte. Whatever. They're, brawling. And then Nikki ASH cashes in her Money in the Bank briefcase one night later and becomes Raw Women's Champion. And it's weird, because I like Nikki. I do. I like the message that the gimmick perceives. I like the idea behind the gimmick. I can't argue that it's going to make money. Do you know what I mean? It's a children's toy. You know what I mean? Like, it's an easy sell. And I like the fact that it's come out that she was the one who pitched it to Vince personally, and she took the initiative and kind of said, like, look, this is what I think I should do, and it's paid ultimate dividends for her. However, just look and look, I get it. It's not meant to appeal to me. It's not meant to, like, I'm not meant to be going, oh my god, what a superhero. But like, it looks crap. Like, it looks like dog shit. It looks like they spent 5 minutes designing this costume and went, right, that's what a superhero looks like.
You know what? The start when she first started doing it, like 2 or 3 weeks ago, like I assumed it was going to be like the Hurricane, or like even Rosie.
Mighty Molly.
Yeah, like where, like I just thought it was going to be kind of a comedy act, and it's the fact that what's that?
I said that's what I thought too. Like, I thought she was just gonna be the butt of every joke now. Like,
yeah, and it's the fact that she is now being taken seriously as the superhero is what I can't get on board with. Like, if she was the Hurricane, fair enough, but the Hurricane never made it into the pay per view. Never had a marquee title match, and I was saying to you, I cannot take the SummerSlam poster seriously if it's going to be her and Charlotte on the poster. Like, you cannot look at that poster and like be like, oh, like, you know, this is something we can be proud of as wrestling fans. Like, yeah, I like the gimmick, I like the message.
But see, this is it. It's really hard to argue it because it's a really good message, and it's like, it's brilliant what she's saying, and it's brilliant what she's like trying to send to people, and like, it's so, like I said, it's such an easy sell, and it's such like.
I also think though it's a lot too much too soon. Like, the gimmick just debuted 3 weeks ago, and she's already champion. You know, leave it build up. I bet you if you let it build up a little while, the fans probably would have gotten behind her. But now that she's champion, you're like, wait, hold on, what? You know, like, you're kind of just flustered by it all. And it'll be like, I'm just thinking. Well, I'm worried that, like, the Raw Women's title with her as champion is just going to keep going in the trajectory that it has been and just not be used that well.
Like, yeah. I mean, obviously that is the risk, and like, the current state of the Raw Women's division would suggest that. But
like, the match for SummerSlam can't be her versus Charlotte or her versus Becky. Like, I cannot take that seriously.
I think it's going to be her, Charlotte, and Rhea. I think Rhea's not gone from this at all. I think she's like I think she still has like genuine, like, because of the DQ on Raw. I think that doesn't end that feud. And I think I don't know why. Maybe it's the cynic in me, but like, for some reason I can just see it turning into like one of these delusional babyface type runs, you know, like Bo Dallas was in NXT, where he thinks, or she thinks, that she's like this do-gooder, but she'll have to cheat to like retain the title because she can't, like, because she's almost a superhero. She's not a superhero. She's almost a superhero. She's not quite there, and like, she has to keep, you know. Hence why she won the Money in the Bank ladder match while everyone was distracted. No one was there to kind of to take her down. Hence why she had to win the title via cash-in. She couldn't do it in a straight singles match, and I doubt that's what they'll do. I don't think that's what they'll do. Not for a while anyway. Not unless the fans turn immediately and they have no choice. But like, yeah, it's a weird one. Look, I'm happy for her because like, Nikki Cross is great. She seems like a really nice person. She seems like a genuinely lovely person. But yeah, a weird one, a shocking one, but a weird shock. And not a kind of like a one, like you said, you're kind of like, what? To the point where like just in disbelief. So yeah, moving onwards from that, I'll try and keep it like kind of chronological on the card. Next, we had the WWE Championship match between Bobby Lashley and Kofi Kingston. I won't stay too long on this. Basically, Lashley murders Kingston. It's just a murder. And it was brilliantly booked. I actually thought it was very well done. He goes out there, he like reclaims the whole the almighty thing, the Dominator thing. He just destroys Kingston. Absolutely annihilates him. But what's interesting is the next night on Raw, you have Bobby Lashley. He issues an open challenge, and this is immediately like alarm bells. You're kind of like going, okay, who's this? Now, it was actually a good surprise because out came Keith Lee. Keith Lee answers Bobby Lashley's open challenge. That was brilliant. He got a great pop, and he got a great reaction, which was good to see. They had a good match, fair enough, but Lashley won. Of course he did. Fine. It was a bit sad because everyone was like, oh, are we getting Lashley and Lee at SummerSlam? But no, we're not. Because after the match, out comes Big Billy Gold Willie. It's Big Bill Goldberg makes his return. First time seen him since the Royal Rumble. He comes down and he says to Lashley, "I'm next." So it's very, very likely we're getting Lashley and Goldberg at SummerSlam. I mean, it's not the match we wanted. It's not the match we wanted. It might be okay. It might be, but it's also a Goldberg match in 2021. Everyone's gonna have severe indigestion watching that match just because it's like.
I've convinced myself that Goldberg's winning here as well.
I don't know. I don't know. Like, obviously, you run that risk with Goldberg. There's obviously.
But I'm thinking, like, when was the last time Goldberg won? Was it Saudi Arabia against the Fiend? Was it the last time he won a match?
I think so. Yeah.
So if Goldberg loses here, what value does Goldberg have anymore in the mind of Vince? Because, like,
I don't know. Like,
and you know how Bill loves to politic. Bill loves to say, like, the kids will want the hero winning at SummerSlam, and Vince gets his arm twisted by Goldberg every time. I think Goldberg's winning here. I don't want Goldberg to win, but I just get the impression that Goldberg is going to somehow walk out of SummerSlam as the WWE champion, because a title he has never held.
Yeah, that's also like there's a lot of things working in Goldberg's favor here. Like you said, he hasn't won a match in a long time now. Lashley's a heel. Lashley is a heel. And it's a title he's never held, correct? I think I'm just holding on to the prospect that, like, similar to the Drew McIntyre match at the Royal Rumble, that Goldberg will just use it to push Lashley over and make Lashley look like the even scarier person than he already is. Use whatever Goldberg shine he has left.
Because it worked so well for Drew.
Well, look, I don't know. Like I said, it's not the match we wanted. But it's the match we're getting, so we'll have to wait and see. It might be okay. It might be entertaining. It might be entertaining in the actual ring, but the actual finish, though, if Goldberg pins him, that'll be quite sad if that actually happens. But yeah. So Goldberg's back and Keith Lee's back. So that's what happened there around the WWE Championship. We'll move on to the men's Money in the Bank ladder match. I found another brilliant match. This was really, really well done. My personal match of the night. I just thought it was really entertaining. Everyone played a part well. We saw Drew McIntyre, who was a lot of people's favorites, my personal pick to win the match, get taken out by Jinder Mahal and his two Goonies. So it looks like we're getting Jinder and Drew at SummerSlam, I guess. Like you said, how that Goldberg rub has pulled off on Drew.
It was a weird one. Like, we spoke about it last week with Fraser, but, like, fuck me, they have. And how can you, like, how could you fuck up Drew? He was the best thing they had, and
the problem was that they booked themselves into a corner by having him face Lashley like 1 billion times, and then over the course of a very long period, and then they were like, oh, the fans are kind of not digging Drew anymore, and we also don't kind of want to take the belt off Lashley now. He can't challenge anymore if Lashley's champion. There, everyone happy, and like then you have this thing where Drew is quite obviously like the top guy on Raw, top babyface on Raw, but he can't challenge for the title. And like, what do you do with him? It's strange. It is a strange one. So yeah, Drew gets taken out by Jinder. So it looks like we're getting that match. But obviously the big story is that Mr. Money in the Bank is none other than Mr. Big E. Big E is Mr. Money in the Bank. I mean, like, you can't not love that. Everyone loves Big E. You know, even if you don't like the New Day, you like Big E. You gotta love Big E. And
he's paid his dues. Like, he's been around enough, or he's been around a long time. He thoroughly deserves it, but it'll be interesting to see when he does cash in.
See, this is it. Like, because Fraser is like, when we had Fraser on last week, that's almost convinced me. That's almost convinced me, and that's what I'm holding on to for Lashley beating Goldberg as well at SummerSlam. Is that like
in the post, if Goldberg wins, we get Big E and Goldberg, which is Big E's dream match.
That's also true. He wants two
meaty men slap meat.
Yeah. I only watched that recently again. That clip. It's just so funny. No, but like, even his reaction afterwards, like his reaction to winning the briefcase, it's so like just wholesome and just like genuine. Yeah. And yeah, I mean, like, I'm delighted for him. You know, I think everyone is. This was another really unpredictable match. A lot of people, you know, Drew could have won it. Riddle could have won it. Big E could have won it, and Big E did win it. And like, yeah, I mean, it was. I'm excited to see what happens, because obviously he's on SmackDown now. The strong rumors going around at the moment is that he's going to be drafted to Raw, and presumably
when is the draft? Have they announced it?
It was meant to be. I think the Raw and SmackDown after SummerSlam, or at least like the week after that, or something like that. But I think they've pushed it back to October, so I think it's in October now.
Jesus, October is a long way away. Like, in terms
this is it. Like, you know, this is it as well. You know, like, you're kind of, the momentum of SummerSlam is going to die down by then anyway. So like,
like October is usually a slower month, and like Hell in a Cell isn't going to be in October this time because
it's extreme. It's extreme rules.
Yeah, like, you know, it's a weird one. Yeah, like, I know we'd be gearing up towards Survivor Series and stuff, but
yeah, like, maybe that, like, see, this is as well. They always tend to do the draft really close around Survivor Series, and then
so someone who was on SmackDown last week all of a sudden is wearing a red shirt.
Yeah, I know, he's defending Raw with his life.
It makes no sense.
Yeah, unless they scrap the brand supremacy thing, which they've, you know, there's been rumors about that for bloody years now, and it just never happened.
Sure, they'd started doing it, because whenever, like, if you remember leading up to Survivor Series last year, like, it looked like it was going to be Retribution versus WWE, and then all of a sudden they just scrapped it. Retribution weren't even on the card, and so, like, you know,
that's acceptable, right?
Yeah, WWE was weird during the pandemic.
It was. Like, we'll probably have to someday. We'll probably have to sit down once like this pandemic stuff is over, and like we're back to normality. We'll have to sit down and kind of rewatch like the best bits of like pandemic era WWE, because like
Underground.
It was like a bloody fever dream, and like I guarantee there's a lot that we don't remember because we've repressed it. But so Big E is Mr. Money in the Bank, which is fantastic. Everyone, you know, that's brilliant. You know, you can't really not love that. So moving on, we'll move on to the final match I'll talk about, the main event. It was the Universal Championship match for between Roman Reigns and Edge. Obviously, incredibly hype match. You know, the match that should have happened at WrestleMania, all this stuff. Good match. Like, see, this is as well. By this point, I have found that like my ability to stay up late to watch pay-per-views has severely diminished. And I stayed, like, I was fine up until the main event, and then the main event I was dozing. I was starting to go, and I remember being in my head being like, no, don't fall asleep. You know, something's gonna happen. It's the main event. And I won't lie, I missed a lot of it because I was kind of drifting in and out of consciousness.
Yeah.
but it was your kind of like Edge has found a kind of niche of matches since coming back, which is long epics where like he sells a lot and like he, you know, it can get quite tedious at points, but like, you know, that's the nature of the game. Roman obviously can go very well in the ring with just about anyone, but like he's kind of it's all about psychology and kind of in-ring storytelling now with him, and that's fun too. But like a long enough match after like you know, a bunch of car crash matches, like the ladder matches.
Yeah,
but
it was very drawn out. Like it was a good match, but I think they could have caught it in 5 or 10 minutes.
Yeah, there would have been no harm. I don't think people would have complained. But anyway, I get to the finish. The finish comes where Seth Rollins runs down and distracts Edge. Edge, you know, clears him off the apron or whatever. There's a ref bump. Rollins comes in, curb stomp, spear, and, you know, Roman picks up the win. He retains. Edge and Rollins brawl afterwards. That match is practically set for SummerSlam now. Seth Rollins versus Edge. That'll be amazing. That's a match that's been 7 years in the build. You know, we can't wait for that. I personally can't wait for that. That's going to be great. And but the real story came after the match. So I remember I was, like I said, I was kind of like drowsy and kind of like, right, what is something going to happen? And then Roman took the microphone, and then I remember being like, okay, here we go. And I sat up, like, right, wake up, here we go. And he says, now the whole world can acknowledge me. Boo, boo, boo. And then wabadoo, do, 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 do. John Cena makes his long-awaited return to WWE. His first appearance since WrestleMania 36, when he was, you know, left in the Fiend's mindscape or whatever. And yeah, John Cena's back with a fade, no less. And yeah, he's back, and he was on Raw, and he cut a promo calling Roman Reigns an asshole.
No, rewind back, because we need to talk about we don't need to talk about the Raw. Raw was okay, but like rewind back, because we need to talk about that pop. That was something.
That's probably one of the loudest pops in I've ever heard in like wrestling history.
Yeah,
like,
it's up there with Cena in 08.
It's up there with Cena in 08. It's up
Triple
there with
H in Madison Square Garden.
Yeah, it's up there. It's genuinely one of the loudest, and like on a night where the crowd was going to be loud anyway.
Yeah.
And like, oh man, like it's so weird. Like looking back on like how much we all hated Cena in his heyday, and now like when those trumpets hit, everyone just loses their shit. Because the thing is, like John Cena, he doesn't take himself seriously anymore. We know that. We know, and like the thing is, now that he's at this stage in his career where he is untouchable. He is untouchable. He can do whatever the fuck he wants. And like he can go on that microphone and say whatever he wants.
He called Roman Reigns an asshole on Raw.
Yeah. I'm saying, and like the fact that he's saying like he's an overprotective, overpushed, overexploited gimmick that isn't as over as he thinks he is, and that's coming from me. Yeah. And like lines like that like no one else could say, and like you just know you're in for a show with John Cena around now. I can't wait for the match. I think the match is going to be. I think the build and the match is going to be fantastic.
Yeah.
He's obviously on SmackDown tomorrow night to confront Roman, which I can get. Like if their promo, their promo in 2017 was it No Mercy 2017?
I went back and watched that on Monday after he returned, and it's incredible. It's
like that promo,
fantastic.
Like that promo was amazing. That promo was unbelievable, and that wasn't this Roman Reigns and this John Cena.
Well, in fairness, Roman Reigns didn't. He couldn't okay promo on that. But like, it's so interesting to go back and watch that, and it's only now when you see the way he is now, you realize how uncomfortable Roman was as babyface. Like, he did not look comfortable at all cutting a promo. Like, he even forgot his lines, if you remember, in the middle of that. He forgot his lines.
Yeah.
And John Cena was like, it's okay, kid, find it. He kept saying, like, find the line. Yeah. And then he was like, it's a promo, kid, you're going to have to learn how to do one, or something like that. But, like, and that goes back to your point about Cena, and Cena can just do and say whatever he wants now.
But that was even 2017 Cena. This is 2021 Cena.
Cena even has less fucks to give in 2021.
Yeah, because like his Hollywood career is now, in a place where, he's pretty much set. He doesn't have to worry about that anymore. He doesn't have to worry about breaking into Hollywood anymore because he's broke there.
Yeah.
And
I think he's reached that. Like, there's very few people who can do that. I think like he's reached that Rock. Like, Rock can come back and go off script or go over time. Like that promo that Rock did where he literally said, this is the time we go off the script. He's talking to guys like they're stoned in the front. He's like, the weed is good in Miami tonight or something like that. But like Triple H gets away with it because like he's like his kid's granddad is Vince. So like he's not going to be fired. Like, so like, he gets away with things like the Hall of Fame when he kept saying Vince's name, even though Vince just fired a guy over Brett's speech or whatever. And like Shawn Michaels got away with it, Austin got away with it, obviously, but like not that many people after that. And Cena's on that level.
Yeah, not many people can get away with it. And like you said, like Cena has entered that kind of that like just that plane of people who like are untouchable in wrestling. And I just can't wait for it. I'm so excited for it. Like SummerSlam is just worth it already for this. Now I do have one criticism, and that is the fact that WWE have come out with the Summer of Cena schedule, and they've announced every single one of his appearances up until SummerSlam. And I'm talking, he's on Raw and SmackDown every week until SummerSlam, which is a lot. You risk, look, I don't want to say you risk overexposure because it's John Cena. Like, do you know what I mean? He's it's not hard to find him.
Yeah.
But like the fact that they've announced as well he's going to be at SummerSlam, even though the match isn't technically confirmed yet.
But everyone knows. Like,
I know, but
I wouldn't say anything regarding that because we know where this is going.
I know, but this is where the kind of like, the old school, it's real to me, damn it, wrestling fan comes in where like, where I'm like, oh, will Roman accept his challenge kind of thing? Like,
yeah, but we know where it's going. So like,
I know.
That doesn't really matter that much. But
yeah, but look, I know they announced like where Cena's going to be in order to get those ticket sales in, because obviously the crowds are back now. They want to boost those ticket sales as much as possible because they've missed out on them for the last year and a half.
Yeah.
So like, yeah, I mean, Cena's back. I mean, we've all been clamoring for it for however long now, and he's back, and it's brilliant. And yeah, I'm excited. I'm excited for the match. I'm excited for the promos. And yeah,
like,
I mean,
like it wouldn't surprise me if we actually see him wrestle before SummerSlam as well, because if you like, I know his last appearance in WWE was in WrestleMania 36, but he didn't wrestle like that. Like that was filmed. Like that wasn't a wrestling match. So
he didn't. Yeah.
So when was his last match? Was it Roman in 2017? Is that his last match?
No, it wouldn't have been that long. It was probably, let me think, 2019. Was he in the Rumble? Did he compete at the Rumble?
He was announced for it, and then they pulled him. Remember that they did that weird thing where they announced him the whole time, even though it was reported that he wasn't there. They just didn't like denounce him and just kept advertising him up until the pre-show, and then they just said, "Nah, he's not here."
Gotta get those picks. No, I mean, I don't think it was 2017. I doubt it was that far back.
Look it up.
Oh no.
Because he was supposed to wrestle in Saudi Arabia. That was cancelled. He pulled out of that also.
Are you checking?
Yeah.
Oh yeah, I was gonna check it if you're.
I think he wrestled some house shows in China, isn't it?
He wrestled Elias. I remember that. At Super Showdown.
Check on Cage Match anyway. That'll tell us.
I know he wrestled Elias. I think he was Elias as well at that what do you call it, house show in China.
He wrestled, the last match he wrestled was it's weird. It was a number one contendership fatal 4-way.
On Fastlane, was it?
On Raw. It was Finn Balor, Baron Corbin, Drew McIntyre, and Cena in a 4-way. I don't even remember that.
I don't remember that either. That's obviously probably coming off the back of McIntyre winning the Rumble, probably. Is it? It
was the 14th of January, so it was before the Rumble.
Oh yeah, because Finn won and Finn went and faced Lesnar at the Rumble.
Yeah.
Remember? And yeah, that's what it was. Oh, there you go. So yeah, his first match since January of 2020. Am I correct?
January 2019.
2019.
Yeah.
Was it? Oh jeez. His last match was January 2019 was his last match. His last like official match.
Yep. So you're talking 2.5 years.
Heck, that's mad.
So like that's what I'm saying. Like I'd imagine he's gonna wrestle once or twice before he wrestles Roman just to get the ring rust out. And that's why he's gonna be on SmackDown and Raw. Probably wrestling. Like I genuinely would love if he brought back the open challenge and just started wrestling people like every week.
That'd be cool, yeah. Like I love if he came out cut a promo being like, yeah, like I might be 16-time world champion John Cena, but I haven't wrestled in 2.5 years. I need to warm up. Send your best and brightest after me. And like, oh, man, I love if they did. Would you love if they did Edge? I can't wait because that like they need to do that like stare down backstage. They need to do that like meeting of Edge and Cena, like that iconic, like because that is such an iconic rivalry now.
No, they'll do something like that. I reckon we'll get leading up to it. We'll get Roman and Seth versus Edge and Cena on a SmackDown at some point.
I saw people talking about that as well. I saw people like posting like renders of it, being like, "Could you imagine?" and all this kind of stuff, and like that would be insane. Like Roman
considering
and Seth,
the history amongst all four.
Yeah, between all four.
Because even like subtle things like the whole thing about Edge and Seth and the neck thing, and it was Cena that brought back the Authority to save Edge that time and stuff like that, you know. So like they're so interconnected, it's ridiculous. So I reckon they'll have to do that match.
Like that match can main event a pay-per-view by itself. You know what I mean? Like that match is insane. Yeah, oh god, I hope they do that match. That'll be so good. Yeah, so we'll move on now from WWE. We kind of covered Raw mostly. That's pretty much all that happened, unless you can think of something that I didn't mention.
No, not really.
I don't think I did. NXT obviously happened on Tuesday, but nothing really of note happened there other than Karrion Kross attacks William Regal. Samoa Joe looks to be out for his blood. NXT is taped for next week, and I think maybe like the week after that or something. I don't know why.
I think it has something to do with the Olympics.
Oh yeah, that makes sense.
I think because it's not on USA for the next 2 weeks because USA are doing Olympic coverage. It's on Sci-Fi. So
fair enough. Cool.
So we'll have the zombie out in 2 weeks' time.
Yeah.
The Sci-Fi execs asked for a zombie during
I mean, WWE have access to zombies, as we know. So yeah, if you want to find out the NXT spoilers, you can go out there again. Like the Impact spoiler, I'm not going to give great detail here. You can check them out if you want. You know, all I'll say is that they build a lot towards Takeover. Takeover is announced for August 22nd, the Sunday after SummerSlam, which
That's
is
so
kind
weird.
of strange. Yeah.
That's so weird. Like, was there a proper explanation as to why SummerSlam's on Saturday?
I don't think so, unless there's like is the Pacquiao fight on the Sunday, perhaps?
That's on the Saturday.
Sure.
That's on the Saturday, which makes it even weirder that they're running Saturday in Vegas.
Yeah, I don't know. I'm not sure.
Like maybe it has something got to do with the NFL season, or the NFL. Like maybe they might have got the stadium.
Is NFL back in August?
It's not back in August, but they're in pre-season at that point. So maybe the Raiders are playing that Sunday, maybe, or something. But how would you turn the stadium over that quickly? I don't know. It's weird. But
it is weird. But look,
I'm not complaining because
I'm not complaining either. It's
Saturday
SummerSlam.
Saturday SummerSlam is a lot easier.
Saturday SummerSlam. Well, for you it is. For me, it's not. It doesn't really make a type of difference. But like, it's yeah, it'll be weird. It'll be weird waking up on Sunday going, oh yeah, I can't wait for TakeOver tonight. And like, it'll be a weird one. This might be one of the few times. I'm trying to think off the top of my head, but I can't remember. But this might be one of the few times where the WWE pay-per-view tops the TakeOver. I think NXT, the current landscape of NXT, it's not stale. I don't want to say stale, but it's. Oh, speaking of NXT, I did forget to mention that we got one Karrion Kross's debut on Raw.
I don't really want to talk about this. It's only going to make me sad. So
the less said, the better. So yeah, basically, if you don't know, Karrion Kross debuted on Raw with the NXT Championship around his waist, but minus everything else. Scarlett, he had no like big special entrance. He had the music, all right, fair, but like no big special entrance. His opponent was none other than Jeff Hardy, who came back to No More Words, which got a pop. That was cool. That was fine, but at the end of the day, Jeff Hardy beats him in 100 seconds and cheats as well to do it.
Yeah, it makes no sense. Babyface cheating.
Put it down the road. And I don't give a shit that No More Words came back. Like, you can't beat the NXT champion on fucking Raw. Did you see apparently during the tapings for NXT, Cross, they were doing a segment with Cross in the ring, and apparently the crowd were chanting Hardy at him so much that they had to keep refilming it until they got it right, because the crowd just would not stop chanting Hardy. And you're just like, oh well, that's him ruined. That's just him done. So yeah, it is quite sad. It is quite sad. But anyway, we'll move on from that because that, like I said, it's sad. So yeah, you can go out there and check for NXT spoilers if you so please. They're out there, not hard to find. But yeah, we'll move on to AEW, I suppose, and we'll talk about stuff we haven't really covered already. We did talk about them a good bit at the start, but yeah. So AEW, or the last, like we talked about, they're just debuting people out the bloody wazoo, and like the same can be said for this week. We saw the debut of one Chavo Guerrero. We saw the debut of Nick Gage. We saw, was there another one? I'm missing. I'm fairly certain there was like one more.
Well, the guy from your man from Bullet Club.
Hikuleo, yeah. We saw 3 debuts this week. On AEW Dynamite, and I saw some funny tweets being like, "This is the best AEW Dynamite after WrestleMania I've ever seen," and all this kind of stuff. Like, and like, just being like, AEW. Yeah, we kind of addressed everything that happened on the show. Lance Archer beat Jon Moxley in the main event to win the IWGP title. Yeah, and the Texas Death Match.
I love the finish. I love the call back to.
The Tokyo Dome match. Yeah. So Archer ends Moxley's reign at 546 days. Big massive reign for Moxley there. Yeah, and Archer got to do it in his hometown, which was quite cool.
Yeah.
So yeah, we've kind of talked about the show itself really, but there's been 2 big stories coming out of AEW this week. And we do have to address them. We wouldn't be wrestling fans if we didn't address these. So I'm trying to decide which one to go first because like they're both like as big as each other. So basically,
we'll go with the more confirmed one first.
Yeah. So it's kind of all but announced. We'll say is Daniel Bryan has apparently signed with AEW, which is insane.
It's huge. It's huge.
Like I said, it's not fully confirmed, but it sounds really, really close to being done.
A lot of reputable sources are confirming it. They're saying like a lot of like Sean Ross Sapp of Fightful was one who said, no, this is a done deal. This is he's pretty much signed. He's an AEW guy.
I think the most reputable source online, and genuinely, it's a guy without a face. It's WrestleVotes. I think that guy has the most on the ball reports I've ever seen. And he said that he came out and he said, as per the Daniel Bryan rumors, I don't have a lot of contacts in AEW, so I can't really confirm or deny. But I reached out to my WWE contacts and asked them when was the last time Daniel Bryan was discussed, and they said he hasn't been mentioned in months. So like Daniel Bryan is clearly not on their mind. Which would indicate that he isn't going back there. We've talked about it before, how he's expressed interest in working in other places and traveling the world and stuff. And apparently I was reading that like his contract, when he was negotiating his contract with AEW, it would be for the same amount of money that he would have gotten in WWE, but for less dates. He doesn't want to work a full-time schedule.
Yeah.
And all him to go to Japan. Apparently he does want to go to Japan and work there, which would be amazing. That would be incredible to see him over there mixing it up with everyone. So yeah, like I said, all but confirmed, but it's like it looks like the ink is wet on the paper kind of thing. Do you know what I mean? And if it happens, like, I mean, and I say if just because these things are never, you just never know with these things. It's huge, and it's one of the biggest things that happen in wrestling, and there may be one thing bigger.
But I just, before we get on to that one bigger thing, I just want to talk a bit about it, because like that, I don't think people, I don't think until it actually happens, people will realize how big this actually is. Like, this is paradigm shifting stuff. Like, this is, you're talking about Daniel Bryan here. You're talking about like the WWE, one of, if not the biggest star in the last 10 years in wrestling. Like, you're talking about
WWE, he's WWE's biggest success story of the last 10 years.
Yeah, and you're talking about, and you're also talking about a guy who is rare in the sense that he appeals to both demographics. Like, he appeals to both us in terms of like the older indie, like centric wrestling fans, the smart marks, let's say, and he appeals to kids with the beard and all the merchandise and all that. So that is huge for AEW. That is huge. He's a huge signing if it's true.
Plus, never mind the fact that he is one of the most gifted wrestlers of all time, and that like he can put on some of the greatest matches that you could ever potentially see in AEW, because they also have some of the most gifted wrestlers of all time. And like, we could be about to see, Bryan Danielson, if presuming he's going to be called that, versus Kenny Omega. We could be about to see Bryan Danielson versus MJF. We're about to see matches that like aren't going to seem real until we see them. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
And
I saw a graphic the other day, and it was like, who's excited? Who's excited for the all out main event? And it was Kenny Omega versus Adam Page versus Daniel Bryan.
I saw
triple threat.
Yeah. I saw another. It was like Kenny Omega versus Hangman Page at All Out, and then it was like Daniel Bryan being ashamed if someone triple threaded that.
Yeah. It's an interesting one, but
it is. But like, it's gonna be incredible. Like, I mean, Daniel Bryan, like, he's Daniel Bryan. You know what I mean? Like, he is genuinely one of the greatest of all time. you could argue the greatest if you wanted to. The argument is there, but like certainly of the last generation like we said, of the last 10 years, like probably the greatest, probably the best to do it in the last 10 years.
Like you're talking about in terms of level of fame and in terms of level of popularity, you're talking about this being top 2 signings AEW have made, maybe top 3. Like you're talking him, Moxley, Jericho. That's it.
Yeah.
Like
yeah.
That is it in terms of the 3 in terms of big names. And I would still put Bryan ahead of Moxley. So, and Jericho, maybe not. I'd probably put those as like joint first in terms of big name signings. But still, like this is huge if it's true.
Like Daniel Bryan feels like when you look at Chris Jericho, you know, obviously he's an AEW guy now. He's like, if you can call it that, he's cemented his legacy in AEW. He feels like a guy who could walk back into WWE and there would be absolutely zero issue. And like Moxley, on the other hand, you don't know, due to the fact that like how his career in WWE ended, just on how the treatment of that went. But like Daniel Bryan feels like a guy, like Daniel Bryan and Chris Jericho are the guys who you feel like could, even though it'd be very, very, very difficult to happen. I won't say it would never happen because you never know. But like they feel like the guys who would bridge the gap between AEW and WWE. And, you know, because they're just that level. Like we know, like when Bryan came back, he was put on like the SmackDown creative team because like he was working on the storylines. That's why SmackDown was firing on all cylinders there for so long. And like I said, like we said there, now it's arguably the biggest thing to happen in wrestling in a long time, bar maybe one thing, and we might just be about to get them both. So according to, like we said, we're not just reporting this out of our arse. This is coming from a lot of reputable sources, Ringside News, Fightful Wrestling, all these guys, you know, who are fairly on the money. They're, you know, they're respected journalists.
Friend of the show, Alex McCarthy, as well.
Alex McCarthy. You know, apparently so. CM Punk is in talks for an in-ring return, with AEW being the likely location. Which, look, I mean, we've talked numerous times about like too many times really about a potential CM Punk return, because there's been so many opportunities to bring it back where it felt like the perfect time to bring it back. And now I'm trying to say the rumors have never been this strong, but like they probably were at one point. But like
I don't think they have, because he's never since he left in, when was it, Royal Rumble 2013? 2014. Like he hasn't been in talks with anyone really. Is that like it took him a long time to even say in public that he'd be willing to have a conversation. It took him nearly 5 years. You're talking about when he did that signing before All In or before Double or Nothing. It was before Double or Nothing. He did that Starcast thing.
That was, I think that was All In, I think, because it was in Chicago.
No, yeah, All In, he did the signing at Pro Wrestling Tees, and then Double or Nothing, he did his Starcast interview thing with Mike Johnson.
Maybe, I'm not sure, I can't.
But the world melted when that was announced, when the Pro Wrestling Tees thing was announced. Because that was All In weekend, people thought like, oh, it's happening, whatever.
He's in Chicago, like it's gonna happen.
But that was coupled with like the reputable sources coming out and saying he hasn't spoken to anyone, he's not in talks, he's, you know, they've always played it down. And then the same thing happened with Double or Nothing, was they did this Starcast thing, but to promote the Starcast thing, if you remember, they released a video of him stepping into a ring for like the first time in 7 years or whatever, and he did a few rolls and stuff like that, and then the world melted because they were like, he's in a ring, and again, the sources were saying, no,
He'll get the book.
we haven't heard anything. He's not in the talks, whatever. They apparently they floated the idea to him, but never offered him a contract or whatever happened. But now these guys are saying he's in talks. They are talking to him. Apparently, some sources are even saying that he's starting to train. Whether it's a thing of I'm in talks, let's see if I can actually go and do this first before I sign the contract, or if it's a thing of, oh, I'm signing this contract, I better get to work or whatever. But apparently he started training. There was speculation, was it 3 or so months ago, that apparently he visited the Nightmare Factory when he was training for that TV show he did with Stephen Amell. Apparently him and Stephen Amell went to the Nightmare Factory and he did I don't know, he was doing a bit of stuff there. But obviously that's probably where it all started in terms of the conversations with Cody and stuff, So
yeah.
I don't know if my heart can take it if he turns up.
Yeah, because this is you talk about Daniel Bryan, but for me, this does top it. I think this is the biggest thing to happen in wrestling because it was the thing that seemed impossible. This seemed like it would never ever happen again. People always say everyone comes back, everyone will he'll come back eventually, somewhere down the line, and all will be forgiven, all this kind of stuff. But he remained, adamant that oh yeah, nah, I'm done, whatever. And then even when AEW came out and people were oh, he has another option, he came out and was they never really wanted to do business properly. It was by text message and all this kind of stuff. So that immediately was every time the hopes went up, he came out with some statement to put it back down again, and people just kind of went, oh,
it was the same when he did the Fox thing and upward backstage and stuff.
And and then going to the UFC and trying doing everything, and then trying to get into Hollywood and doing everything he could to kind of separate himself from that. But CM Punk, I don't think people realize just how big and how important CM Punk is to wrestling, because he was a guy who, other than maybe Stone Cold Steve Austin, got so many people back into wrestling. You had say the people who grew up in the 70s and the 80s and watched Hulk Hogan and Andre the Giant and Macho Man Randy Savage and all these people, and then they grew up, and as a lot of people do, kind of fell out of love with wrestling, kind of it's oh well, look, it's not, it was better when I was a kid, when I thought it was all real and all this kind of stuff. And then someone come but you still keep your ear to the ground because it's not something you fully escape. And they hear of this guy Stone Cold Steve Austin coming out in the 90s, and you're oh, this guy seems cool, and you're tuned in and you're hooked again. Same thing happened with CM Punk. You grow up on bloody John Cena and Batista, and you get sick of it eventually, and then you hear rumblings of the CM Punk guy going off script on live television and cutting these really true promos and giving Vince McMahon the what now and all this kind of stuff, and it brings you back in. And I think the same thing could be about to happen if this is true, and CM Punk puts pen to paper with AEW and he shows up and he wrestles and he's back. You're gonna get, I think you're gonna, I'm not crazy now. I don't think we're gonna get attitude era things here, but I think you're going to see a genuine influx in wrestling fans. I think people are going to be genuinely intrigued to watch it again.
AEW have had some good stuff, but it was good stuff for wrestling fans. They've done nothing in terms of bringing back the lapsed fan, which was their main goal, according to Tony Khan when he started. And, the ratings and stuff have always stayed in around the same. It's always the same people coming back to watch it. And it's entertaining for people who have followed wrestling all their lives. But that's not where the money is. The money is bringing all these people, the people who watched in the 90s and the 80s, you know, like it's bringing these people back, because the crowd that they have now are the diehards. Like, no matter how bad it's going to get, you're going to have these people watching.
Yeah.
But you need to go out and get the lapsed fan, the people. And there's only certain few things that you can do to do that. And that is one of them. Like, bringing in CM Punk is one of them. Like, if CM Punk turns up on AEW television in any capacity, like, that is, like, as big as when Hogan dropped the leg on Randy Savage at Bash the Beach, like, 1996.
No,
like,
it's a genuine game changer, and it is the ace in the hole for AEW, like getting the leg up on WWE. And like, it was weird actually. I don't know, did you see, but last night WWE ran this thing on their Instagram where they were talking about, like, Joe, all these Instagram or SummerSlam commercials. You know, they kind of got famous for, like, SummerSlam commercials, like Brock Lesnar F5 and the Shark and all this kind of stuff.
Yeah.
And one of them was for SummerSlam 2013, 2012 maybe. And it was literally just a picture of AJ Lee holding a CM Punk dog. And, like, I was just like, whoever's running the WWE's Instagram account is a sly fox.
Yeah. But see, that's another thing that's been reported by like reference sources, that WWE officials are under the impression that that Punk is signing for AEW. Like, they think that that's what's happening. So whether they've heard something, whether or not they know something, you'd imagine they would have connections somewhere to know that. But if that happens, it is huge. It's a very exciting time to be a wrestling fan, considering where we were only a few weeks back, where it was like, nah, nothing really going on. Now you're like, all of a sudden this week has, like, blown everything. Cena's back. Daniel Bryan is going to AEW. CM Punk is apparently returning. No More Words is back. Karrion Kross lost, but, you know, you have to take the wins and the losses. But
things around about. But, like, what's it like? Alex McCarthy, like you said, you know, friend of the channel, put it very well this week. He said, like, you know, this is a very exciting time for wrestling. Fans are back and louder than ever. Genuine surprises every week, you know, rumors running rampant, you know, genuine dream matches coming true. And, like, you know, just enjoy wrestling right now, because, like, wrestling hasn't been the same for a year and a half, and it just feels like it's starting to get back to normal. And I think we're in for just a period of prosperity in professional wrestling, and hopefully it lasts a while. But yeah, I mean, like,
because the thing is, as well, like, obviously the number one thing for fans, if CM Punk was to return, or if Daniel Bryan was to go to AEW, is to see them there and see what happens with them, and see them, especially CM Punk. Like, to see CM Punk wrestle again is a huge thing. But another added incentive for fans wanting to see this is, if that happens, like, it then focus turns to WWE to say, you need to up your game here. Like, Vince needs to, you know, and he did it when it took a year. It took almost nearly a year and a half when Hogan dropped the leg. But, like, you're talking, it can only be a good thing for wrestling on both sides of that.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah. And, like, yeah, that's the thing. Like, I mean, CM Punk shows up on AEW, and Daniel Bryan's there too. And, like, you know, like, I know which channel I want to watch straight away. You know, I know where my intrigue's going to be.
Yeah.
And like, don't get me wrong, like, the thing is, like, WWE for the last, like, couple of weeks has been putting out some great stuff. And, like, I do want to see Roman Reigns and John Cena. But if CM Punk shows up, you know, at Dynamite, or at, you know, fucking All Out or whatever, I'm like, come on now. Like, I mean, you know, I can see John Cena I can see John Cena in blockers. I can, when's the last time? So like, yeah, I mean, it's a crazy time. It's a crazy time. So much has already happened. So much is going to happen. I can promise you that. So much is going to happen, and
we just have to wait and see how it plays out.
Yeah, I mean, we still have SummerSlam, we still have Takeover, we still have All Out to look forward to going forward.
I'll be keeping a close eye on every wrestling show in the near future.
I'm afraid to go to sleep. Yeah, yeah, I know, it's insane, and not even that. Like, I mean, every company is like rumbling. You know what I mean? Like, we've got, like I said, Jay White's showing up in Impact. We've got the G1 right around the corner in New Japan. Who's going around for that? And they're running a Tokyo Dome show in a couple of weeks, and it's all popping off everywhere. And I don't like it's insane.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I don't know what else to talk about, because there was a lot to talk about.
I say we leave it there now, because it's not going to get any. It's more exciting than the last two bits of news. But what's crazy is, like, Daniel Bryan signing for AEW was huge news. Like, in terms of like level of news, that's like top tier news. And it still didn't close out our show, because it was bested by maybe the one thing that was bad, that was out.
It's like this thing is like AEW. Like, I saw this thing being of like WWE brings back Cena, AEW brings back Bryan, and all this kind of stuff, and then it was like AEW brings back Punk, and then it was like AEW just competing with itself, being like, yeah, now what are you gonna do? And then like Brock, yeah. I mean, anything's possible. And Tony Khan or whoever is clearly not, afraid to open his wallet and pay people what they want. So
I can only imagine the dollar figure that CM Punk is currently negotiating.
I saw another brilliant tweet being like, I can't wait for MJF's promo on CM Punk's UFC career, and like, you're just like, that is true. That would be stellar. Because that is like, I'm not. Look, we could sit there for another bloody 3 hours talking about the potential CM Punk could have in AEW and all the feuds he could have, but but yeah, look, we'll leave it at that. We'll come back to you, I suppose, if more shit break goes down, because who knows? He might have signed in the meantime. So yeah, we'll leave it at that. Our handles are on Twitter, JB Wrestling 1998. You can follow us on Instagram and YouTube at Just Because Wrestling, and you can email us at jbwrestling50@gmail.com if you have any inquiries or questions. And if it's a wrestling related question, we might even answer it on the podcast. Who knows? So yeah, stay tuned. We're obviously working on getting more people on the show, but times are tough as well, because like we said, scorching hot, no one wants to do anything, and also people are working shows more regularly and stuff, so like their availability isn't as, it's a lot harder to get people now. But look, stay tuned, because we'll be trying desperately to get people on, and if not, look, hopefully CM Punk will return. We'll have like a catalogue of things to talk about for the future. So yeah, that's been us. Thanks for listening, guys. We do appreciate it, and yeah, stay tuned.
Thanks, guys.